Mark Rogers TV USC edition, talking Trojans, red hot Trojans after defeating Penn State in a glorious Rose Bowl 52-49, joined by Nick Dempsey of Conquest Chronicles. And we talked about it after the game, the Sam Darnold performance. Little did we know at the moment, Nick, that this Sam Darnold performance would be known to propel him into consideration for the much coveted Archie Griffin Award.
That's one way to describe it. I was not aware. I didn't know much about this award. I'll be honest. But it's given to the MVP of the season after all of the bowl games are played. And they have determined that Sam Darnold was the MVP, which I can see if you're looking at it from the perspective of if you took out one guy from any team in all of college football, who would have the biggest drop. I would say USC would certainly be up there, or Sam Darnold and USC would certainly be up there. But, the guy, Archie Griffin's a college football legend, 2-time Heisman winner. It's a great honor. But I think if you ask Sam Darnold, it's not the trophy he wants to be holding up. I think he'd rather have that national championship trophy, or at the very least, the Pac-12 championship trophy. But Rose Bowl champion and Archie Griffin Award, I guess, is not a bad start for your first year.
Yeah, so both of us together did a bit of a cram session on the Archie Griffin Award just before we came on to better understand what this is. And similar to the Heisman Trophy, in that it's awarded to, in a sense, best player Heisman Trophy versus most valuable player. There is definitely a distinction there, but bigger than that to me is that you tack on postseason play, and it's awarded to the entirety of the season's best player or MVP. And probably the most significant case is 2 years ago, Ezekiel Elliott had a fine season for Ohio State, but it was magnified 10 times by him running rampant over Wisconsin, Alabama, and Oregon for 200, 250 type yard games in those 3 consecutive games to win the national title. So he goes from being a really good player on a really good team to, wow, he just decimated the college football playoff, and he's going to win this award. And this is something similar to that, to a lesser degree, that Sam Darnold on college football's biggest stage outside of the playoff in the Rose Bowl puts up 52 points against the number 5 team in the country and just lights it up. And this is one of the awards for Mr. Darnold, and just a freshman. There could be more significant hardware in his future.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think the biggest thing that probably tipped him over the edge was the fact that Penn State really took away the running game against USC. So this game was really on his shoulders. And I believe they had over 50 passes, which is way more passes than Clay Helton normally likes to run. He usually likes to have a very balanced attack. And he had 5 touchdowns and only 1 interception, which is insane to me, to throw 53 times. And you got a 5-to-1 ratio against a great team. It's not like Penn State was, Bethune-Cookman or whoever is on Alabama's schedule. It was against a great team, and he almost put up 450 yards, something like that. So certainly tipped him over the edge. And I think you could certainly make the case that if Sam Darnold doesn't show up when he does on this team, USC's could very well be looking for a new coach right now, or have just announced a new coach. So I think you could certainly say that about him being the most valuable player, certainly to his team. And statistically, I'm not sure who had a better bowl game than Sam Darnold, other than probably Trace McSorley. No, he had 3 interceptions, so probably not. I don't see who had a better bowl game, at least statistics wise. But that's, it's impressive, and it's only going to, I think, add to the hype, the preseason Heisman hype that is probably coming his way, and to Trace McSorley's way, possibly Saquon Barkley. It's just going to add on once they start putting up his resume. Those awards are going to be at the bottom, after all his stats. So it's going to add to the hype, and well deserved. But next, let's see him put together a whole season. I think that's what we're all waiting for now.
So yeah, Nick, in the couple days in the aftermath of the season, we all turn our attention to 2017. Who's losing what? Who's picking what up? What freshman really stood out that's going to be blockbuster next season? And we're looking forward to 2017. But there was one little mention there of a possible Pac-12 championship this past season, and what really might have been. So we saw Colorado, and God bless them, they had a great season, and really rose out of the ashes of college football. Mike McIntyre, the national coach of the year, did a great job. But man, to have seen USC in a rematch against Washington, considering Colorado getting obliterated by Oklahoma State and Washington late in the season, and really showing that they weren't quite up to it. And it would have been nice to have seen.
Yeah, it was disappointing to watch this year's Pac-12 championship game as a USC fan, just because you beat both of those teams in the game. And, you know, all of a sudden you start going through your head. You miss the Pac-12 championship game by one loss. And you start to wonder, man, if we wouldn't have turned the ball over so many times against Utah, or man, if Sam Darnold would have started at the beginning of the season, maybe have the better shot against Stanford. Maybe he's more comfortable by the time he gets to Utah. So it's disappointing, but at the same time, it's one of those things where they've moved on. You can't do much about it now, but I think they've proven to themselves they can compete and beat with the best teams in the country. They beat a playoff team. They just beat the Big Ten champions, who I think many believe was the best conference in the nation this year. So it's exciting to move forward and think about that. But yeah, it was really disappointing watching that Pac-12 championship game. Like, man, we could have been there, should have been there. We beat both teams, but you can't just lose 3 games and not expect some consequences down the road.
Nick Dempsey from Conquest Chronicles, the USC site for on SB Nation. Nick and I get together each and every week to talk USC football, and of course, recruiting is going to be on our minds for the next several weeks, leading to National Signing Day, the first Wednesday of February, and also NFL draft considerations need to be determined here in the next few weeks. I believe January 15th or 16th is the day. All right, Nick, we appreciate the breakdown.
Of course, Mark, anytime.